Hello, everyone, and welcome to I Am Not Okay with Day. I am your host, Day. And today we have an amazing episode. I'm very excited. We are continuing with our identity series, and I have a special guest. My guest today is Deandra Chandler. She is a mom, a wife, a blogger. She is the Snarky Mom on Instagram. She has a blog, and she's really just an advocate for moms and women everywhere. We had such an amazing conversation. I'm very excited for you all to hear it. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. Here is Deandra. Welcome, Deandra, to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you so much for having me, Day.
Deandra, aka the Snarky Mom on Instagram. I'm very
Yes.
excited. As you guys all know, we are doing our series on identity, and I thought she would be the perfect person to talk about motherhood and how that's affected her identity. So, we're going to dive into all of those awesome things later on today. But first, y'all know what we do here. We do our some type of way. So, Deandra, normally on the podcast, when anything is going on, I started off talking about something that made me feel some type of way. It could be something good, something bad. It's really just a way to help me get some stuff off my chest. So I can go first so you can see what I'm doing and then you can jump in. Okay.
Okay.
So this past week, something that made me feel some type of way is I was talking to my best friend and she was telling me, I don't know if you do this sometimes with your friends where sometimes you just express how much you love them and there's just like a love fest happening out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But sometimes you need that, and my friend said to me, Dania, I'm just so happy that I have someone who loves me unconditionally and shows me that it's possible and that I'm not a crazy person. And it's possible to love me unconditionally because sometimes in my life with other situations and people, I don't feel that all the time. But when I talk to you, you always make me feel heard. You make me feel loved. And you make me know that other people can love me on this level. And it just has helped me like throughout my life growing in my self esteem. And I was just like, oh, it was so sweet. And again,
That's so
sometimes, I
important.
mean, even though they're your best friends, you talk to them all the time, sometimes you need to hear these good things about yourself. So that made me feel so just warm and fuzzy on the inside. I appreciate her. She knows who she is. What about
Absolutely.
you, Deandra?
Let's see. What's making me feel some type of way? Uh, you know, I think the thing that's making me feel some type of way is finding out that Kev on stage is one of those sugar on grits type of people. I never knew that. I never knew.
I just saw that too.
I just saw that and I was like, I don't know how I feel. I don't know how I feel
Heartbroken.
knowing that about him.
You know what? I don't know if I should say this, but see, I'm not from the South. So I honestly, I don't even get the grits in general at all. I don't get it. I can't get on board with it. I know. So maybe I'm canceled. My black people don't cancel me. I can't. I can't get on board. So whether it's the sugar or the salt, or cheese, I heard cheese goes on it. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah, so I'm from the South and it's butter, salt, those are good. But the sugar, I'm kind of new to that. I'm kind of new to
So
that.
is
My
it like
nephew,
Is it like majority of black people have it with salt and butter and that's why it's just like super offensive? Is that it?
I think the majority of Southerners have it that way.
Southerners. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a Southern thing. So
I am sorry. I know he's getting a lot of flack for it too. I think
he
he
is.
posted
He
something
is.
about it too. Someone sending him a DM how disappointed they were.
Right. Right. Now he's not canceled. He's not canceled. I
He's
will
not
give him that
canceled. Oh,
part.
good.
I just don't know how I feel now.
Now we look at him just a little bit differently this time.
Just a little bit.
That's hilarious. Well, thank you for that, Deandra. We are going to jump right in. So, as I said earlier, you guys, we're talking about identity. And in last week's episode, I talked a little bit about my struggles with identity. And so, we're going to talk a little bit with Deandra about her struggles with identity. So, Deandra, the first thing I want to ask is, was that a struggle for you? At any point in time, struggling with your identity. Yeah. And
Absolutely.
so tell me a little bit about that. What was that like for you?
Um, I think I've gone through just several evolutions in my identity and in my struggle with identity. I was raised in the South, as I stated before, in a very religious household,
Yeah.
and um, and we were, told what we were supposed to do and how we were supposed to feel about things, and a lot of that was based in restriction.
Mm,
So there wasn't a whole lot of freedom to just be and to kind of figure out who you were and how you really felt about things, and just get really curious about those feelings.
yeah.
It really wasn't until my um, young adulthood that I started to question some of the things that I believed, and that really caused a shift. I
Mm,
would say that was the first shift when I got out on my own and I saw the different ways that of being, and I started to question the things that I thought I knew. Um,
mm,
and so that caused a very, uh, I would say, an inward kind of evaluation. Like,
mm-hmm,
am I okay? Like, is it everybody else or is it just me?
mm,
And so I also went through a phase where I questioned my belief in, well, not my belief in God. I've always believed in God, but how what is his function in my life?
mm, mm-hmm,
Um, because like I said, I grew up in a very religious household, and I was told that you're not supposed to question God. There was just this very, fierce obedience to the things that I was supposed to do.
right.
And that was probably one of the hardest times in my life
Mm,
when um, I discovered that some of the things that I thought I knew, I didn't know at all. And so when I went through that phase where I was questioning God's function in my life, um, I went to I was very depressed during that time.
mm-hmm,
Um, and I didn't really know who to talk to because it felt like everyone around me knew what they were doing and knew
yeah.
what they believed, and I was the only one that didn't.
Mm,
Um, and I will say, my husband, who's a very wise person, he really helped me through um, that phase. But because I'm just kind of stubborn, I wanted to figure it out on my own. Like I
yeah.
wanted to be the one to fix me. Um, and sometimes you do need people to come
Right.
alongside of you and help you in that. And that was something that I had to learn. Um, but fast forwarding a little bit, um, I am. I don't have it all together. I am still searching in that way. What is God's function in my life? Because I just realized that there were a lot of things that I grew up believing that weren't true.
Mm,
And so I'm still there. I'm still searching. I'm still learning. And I believe that God has been very gracious in that. And so when I became a mom, it really became important to me to really understand what it was that I believed, because I
Mhm.
knew whatever I believe, I was going to transfer that to my children.
Right.
Um, and one thing that was very important for to me was that they felt comfortable in being whoever they were.
Mm, mhm.
And that's not something that I grew up with. I
Yeah.
didn't grow up believing that um, I should be comfortable in whoever I am. I grew up believing I should conform to a certain belief.
Mhm. Wow. First of all, thank you so much for sharing that. And second, I relate to so much that you're talking about because I also grew up in, a religious household, a lot in the church. And a lot of those feelings that you're expressing is things that I've experienced as well, where, yeah, it's a lot of, okay, what they teach you, you just accept it, you don't question it, you take it as gospel and you live your life accordingly. And this is a discussion I've had with so many friends, especially who've grown up with me as well, where we have to be open about questioning. I actually just read this a few weeks ago, not a few weeks ago, a few days ago in the Bible about God saying, test me, ask me these things, ask
Right.
the questions. And I think it's just so sad that a lot of times in Christian households, there is no room for questioning and for asking things and wanting to know more and wanting to understand for yourself versus kind of just like regurgitating what is taught,
Absolutely.
and for me as well, that was definitely something that, shaped who I became because I became a person who, like you, just kind of did what everybody said you're supposed to do. I think on the other hand, I didn't have as many questions until like a lot later on in life because
Yeah.
I feel like I genuinely believed in what I was being told, like I was there with them until certain things in how happened in life. And I was like, well, I don't know about this, and I really had to start to like kind of evaluate. So I think the fact that you said too that you felt like you were the only one is so interesting because it's so common, especially I think within the Black communities, because of course, it's very common for Black people to be spiritual and go to church. A lot of us are raised in the church, and it's so common. And it's crazy how we just kind of started talking about all this.
Yeah.
So you talk a little bit about still kind of on this journey of discovery. And that's something I really actually loved about your blog and your Instagram page. You are in your process of growth and evolution and you're sharing all of these things. So let's talk a little bit about first before we get to motherhood, let's talk about being a wife because you said that your husband was very helpful for you in this kind of process of figuring it out, but that you still wanted to figure things out for yourself. How did you were there any issues with identity when once you got married? Like did you feel like, especially like as you grow in the church and you have these ideas of what you're supposed to be as a wife, was that an issue for you? And then how did you handle that once you got married?
Yeah. Well, my identity struggles primarily came from what I saw in our household. My mom and my dad got divorced when I was 10.
Mm-hmm.
So what I have seen for the majority of my life is, be a strong Black woman. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You can, be independent, take care of the things that you need to take care of, if you need to work, all that. Um, you know, the message, although my mom didn't say this, the message that was being transmitted was, you don't need a man for anything, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and men will take advantage of you. If you give them an inch, they'll take them out, kind of thing. That was a message that I was seeing. And so when I got married to my husband, I struggled in in my identity as a wife, because I believed that there was, in our relationship, I was supposed to make sure I wasn't taken advantage of. And
Mm,
so that didn't create an environment for vulnerability. So you could see how that would kind of feed
yeah.
into this thought that I need to fix me. You know, I can do it. I don't need
Mm-hmm.
any help. You know, I can do this. I'm independent. I'm strong. You know, so with him being very affectionate and very caring, you know, he was just kind of like, you know, why are you pushing me away? You know, like, this
Yeah.
is what I'm here for. And so, you know, we didn't figure that out. And there are still some things that I'm just kind of like, no, don't touch that. That's mine. I'll take care of it, you
Mm-hmm.
know. But we did come to a place where I allowed him to help me, and
Yeah.
I softened because I knew he was there um, for my benefit,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, not to take advantage of me. And it wasn't anything that he did. There was no issue of do I trust him.
Yeah.
It was just what I saw, you know.
Right. It sounds like
Yeah.
the trauma of your mom, she kind of projected her trauma onto you of just her
Right.
being burned, and understandably so. And then it creates this like hyper need for independence. And so this like
Right.
you don't trust anyone to even take
No.
care of you, you know?
Right.
Even if they show you that they're capable and they want to do that, it's like, no, you got to take care of yourself because you don't want to be burned. And everybody has to be, you know, we got the control, we can trust ourselves, we can't trust you. And yeah, and it bled
Yeah.
into the relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And um, as we as I grew in sharing my most, you know, vulnerable places, our relationship just got better, and I I really kind of got in the flow of, you know, really being um a helper, you know, a helpmate to him, and allowing him to be a help to me. And so there's still some things, like I said, there's still some things I'm just like, no, don't touch that. That's mine. I don't need help with
Mm-hmm.
that. I can fix it. But I'm better. I'm better. I at
Yeah.
least communicate when those times are happening. And he gives me the space to process it. Because sometimes you do just need that space. Because
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to be honest, sometimes you just don't have the words to say, this
Yeah.
is what's happening. This is what's going on in my head. This is the story that I'm telling myself, and I
Mm-hmm.
need help.
Especially if you're not used to it too, because it doesn't sound like that was something that was nurtured for you as a kid.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
I love that. I love that you have this amazing husband, first of all, who sounds like he's so patient with you and gives you exactly what you need. What was the um what was like the moment when you were like, okay, I need to take a step back and accept help? Like, was there any kind of like a epiphany that you had, or anything that was like, okay, let me calm it down and let me try to be more vulnerable, be more open, or accept help?
Yeah. I would probably say that it was probably during the time when I stopped working at the first time I stopped working as a public school teacher. I wasn't finding any joy in it
Mm.
anymore. Um, and public education was just changing so much during that time. Um, and I remember us having a conversation, and I was telling him, you know, I'm just stressed out. You know, I'm just really stressed out. This is not bringing me the joy that it used to. I
Mm-hmm.
am not finding my rhythm. I feel like I'm forcing the issue. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
forcing myself to struggle through this place that I'm in, and I'm miserable.
Yeah.
And he said to me, this is probably not verbatim because it was so long ago, but he said something to me, and it was essentially, why don't you just quit? And I was like, what? I can do that? You would
Right.
let me do that? And I believe it was at that moment I saw that, he was more concerned about my welfare than whether, I was bringing in any money or, contributing in that way.
Yeah.
He was more concerned about me being in a place where I was experiencing joy and I was doing the thing that I love, more so than, you know, just, contributing financially.
Right.
Um, and I that has permeated our marriage in a way, that, whatever comes up, I'm just like, that's the same guy. That is the same guy that said, why don't you just quit?
I love
Because he cared
that.
about me. He cared about me so much.
Sometimes, you know how they say, sometimes you got to look in the mirror and you got to remind yourself who you are. Sometimes you got to look at your spouse and you got to remind yourself of who they are.
Yeah,
I love that.
yeah, yeah.
And so, okay, so we've for the most part overcome this this sense of heightened independence, and we're now able to count on truly your spouse, right? And so, what was it like then, the transition into motherhood when you had your first child?
Um, that was a bumpy ride. Um,
Yeah.
because in the interim, I had gone back into, well, I had wanted to go back to teaching, and my child was, my child was born, and I just thought to myself, there's no way that I can stay here,
Mm.
because I I never saw it coming, because, to be honest, before having children, I really didn't want to have children.
Oh my
Um,
gosh. I'm
and
in that place right
I
now, girl. I'm
know,
like, no, it's a no for me.
right, right. And I was just like, I'm way too selfish to. But I found myself, after we got married. I found myself wanting children,
Mm.
and we had our daughter, and I was just like, there's no way I can go back to work. There's just no way. I'd missed too much. Like,
Yeah.
I became obsessed with this little person, because I was just like, I don't want anyone else raising her.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I don't want to miss any milestone. I don't want to miss anything. I don't want to miss a moment of her life. My mom used to joke, that I took a picture every day of her life. And I really did, because I didn't want to miss anything, and I didn't want her to miss
Yeah.
anything. So I I stopped working for like it was almost a year. So I think it was like 10 months. I put
Mm-hmm.
her in daycare when she was 10 months old, and I went back to work. And I
Okay.
worked for a little while, and it still just was not bringing me any joy. I didn't feel like I was in purpose at all. Although this is what I went to school for, and that's another thing I struggled with. Like, I went to school for this. I have these
Mm.
degrees, and you know, people are expecting me to do great things. Like, why would I, quit working and be a stay-at-home mom? But that's
Yeah.
exactly what I did. That's exactly what I did. I quit working. I became a stay-at-home mom, and I found so much joy in it. But
Wow.
that's not to say I didn't struggle, because um, society, in my view, society doesn't necessarily um, applaud or um,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Appreciate.
appreciate, being a stay-at-home mom.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's still some things that I struggle with there, but
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, I was just finding so much joy and purpose in it. And my husband said something to me. He said, who better than to be at home with these children, but someone who has a degree in education.
Right. You're the most
you know,
qualified and their
right,
parent.
right. And I was just like, you know what? You're right. You're
I
you're
love it.
absolutely right. Yeah.
You know what? What you just said is, I think, uh, the biggest thing that keeps us stuck is just thinking about what's everybody else going to think. How is
Right.
everybody going to look at me?
Right.
And, you know, no one cares. Like the
Yes.
bottom line is, yes, people might say this, but they might say it for like a 1, 2 times and then like they're moving on. And at the end, you are the one still living the life. And when we
Right.
make the decisions to live our lives in order to please other people or because we don't want to be embarrassed or whatever, we are not in our purpose. We're not living in our purpose. We're not doing what is going to bring us joy ultimately. And I just love to hear that when you made that decision, you chose it for yourself and that your husband was on board and everybody important was there to support you in
Yeah.
this decision. And I love to hear that you chose the thing that brought you joy because I feel like that's just so important and it's almost rare in these days too because
Yeah.
like you said, society says go to college, do post
Right.
grad, then get a job and work till you can't even function anymore.
Right.
You can't even enjoy the money you make from work because you're just working all the time. And sometimes it's just not about that. Sometimes it's really
Yeah.
just about finding the things, not sometimes, all the time, finding the things that give you joy. So I love that. So
Yeah.
and you it's interesting because you also sound like you have the opposite I feel like of what some moms go through, which is first when you get married, it's hard for you to kind of be the nurturer in the relationship and the person who's able to willingly have your spouse help you. And then when you become a mom, it's like before that, when you think about working and wanting to do what's going to make you happy, it's not in your head. Oh, you can just be a stay at home mom. And whereas some people I feel like would probably want to go that route, you
Yeah.
or not want to go that route, you realize this is actually the thing that is going to give me the most joy. And I just love that. And I
Yeah.
think what this tells me is everyone has their own path. Everybody has what is going to be
Yeah.
good for them. And you just can't look at other people to determine what's going to be good for you because we're all different people.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And just looking back, again, tying it into what I saw growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my mom, there wasn't a day that she didn't go to work, you know. She would go to work when she was sick, she would go to work when it was,
Yeah.
you know, um, when she shouldn't have been going to work, like she was just
Mm-hmm.
tired,
Yep.
and so I was just like, that's the life, right? Like
Yeah.
you're supposed to go to school, get a job, and work, 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 work. And so I did struggle because I had never seen this type of life before. I had never seen a
Mm-hmm.
stay-at-home mom ever.
And so you're kind of creating a new life for yourself without any kind of like thing to follow. How do you go
No,
about doing that? Like what's the plan? you know?
listen, I fly by the seat of my pants. No, but I am kind of learning on the job though. But one thing I discovered early on when I had my daughter, and I'm so thankful that I had my daughter first. She was like textbook baby,
Really?
met every milestone when all the books said that she would, when all the pediatricians
Mm-hmm.
said that she would, she met every milestone, everything. And so I got a chance to really be guided by her. And
Wow.
allowing her, even as a baby, to let me know what she needed. And so a lot of people like to talk about how, your motherly instincts kick in and all of that. And that's true. But a large part of that is being, being able to tune in to what your baby needs, because they're always communicating what it is that they need.
Mm-hmm.
And so I allowed my daughter to take the lead, and I just came on board. If whenever she started talking, um, we had already established a schedule and all of that, because I allowed her to take the lead in that. I didn't force anything. Like, my second child, I sleep trained him,
Mm-hmm.
but she didn't need that. She didn't need it. She didn't need to be sleep trained. And so, just like adults have differences, babies have
Mm-hmm.
differences. And you just kind of go with what it is that they need. And so, um, uh, I allowed myself to really just be present, with her,
Yeah.
and give her what she needs. And that is what taught me how to be a mom, and how to be a stay-at-home mom.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, and I just really wanted to make her. I really wanted to give her the things that I didn't have.
Yeah. It sounds
Um,
like able to almost like relinquish the control a little bit and kind of go with the flow in terms of
yeah,
motherhood, learn as much as you possibly can instead of say, okay, this is what's supposed to happen and let me make sure that this is happening as this is.
yeah, yeah. Definitely. Because I realized early on, when they're newborns, they're gonna cry, they're gonna do whatever it is that they want to do.
Hmm.
and and then
you, they're the
and
captain
you
of the
have to
ship.
just exactly, and you just have to fall in line. That's it.
Yeah.
So you learn. You learn as you go. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So since the stay at home, being a stay at home mom was what you felt like you really wanted to do. How was that transition? Was it a seamless transition, or did you have any struggles with your purpose, or was it something where you got into it and you were like, yes, this is what I need to do?
Yeah, no, it was not seamless at all. Like some people, they're on like this straight path, and they
Mm,
know exactly, what their purpose is, and they're in college and they're working towards that purpose. Like that was not it wasn't apparent to me
yeah.
that was, where things were going. And so there was a lot of pushback on my end with becoming a stay-at-home mom, because you know when we think about purpose, as society paints this picture, you're working in at some Fortune 500 company, or
Hmm.
you're creating some charity, or
Right.
it's very seldom, you know being a stay-at-home mom, being a mom, and raising the children, and creating this family. uh, that's not something that you see in mass when you talk about purpose.
Yeah.
And so that wasn't something that I even considered as being a part of my purpose. I
Hmm.
thought my purpose was to go to school, get a degree, get a job. Uh, that was my purpose. So
Hmm.
I thought. And so, yes, I struggled a lot with becoming a stay-at-home mom, even though it was bringing me so much joy.
Yeah. Wow. So it's almost like you find something that is making you happy, but there's still like societal pressures and other
Mhm.
people's, you know, um, ideas of what is acceptable, what is right in your head. And so you're not even able to fully embrace the decision that you made. So, what was the thing that kind of changed that for you? Like, when did you realize and fully accept that this is your purpose?
When I started going to therapy.
I love that.
Yeah. And because therapists have such a good way of to help you see things from a different
Right. Reframing.
yes, yes.
Yes.
And when I started going to therapy, and started getting really curious about why I was having the thoughts that I was having and why did I see things the way I saw things.
Hmm.
It really allowed me to reevaluate a lot of those things that I grew up believing in, and even things that were fed to me that I saw and I came to believe as a young adult.
Hmm.
And so I definitely would say um, my therapist helped me to see that there are different ways of being, and there are and a lot of us, if we had a choice, we would want to raise our children.
Right.
Yeah. And it was just that I hadn't seen anything like that. So
Hmm.
maybe a part I think maybe a part of me felt like I was getting off easy,
Mm.
just like, some of the societal beliefs surrounding stay-at-home moms. Like, oh my
Right.
gosh, that's such an easy job. You must love that. What do you do all day?
Hmm.
Kind of thing.
Or
And
even
so I
being
think,
lazy. I've heard that too.
yeah, yeah.
Not
And
having
so,
ambition. You want to just live off your husband or and stuff like that.
right, right.
Mm.
I think all of that played a role.
Yeah.
And my therapist helped me to see that, the person who went to school and graduated from college, uh, and got these great, opportunities, that a high achieving person is still you, whether you're a stay at home mom
Exactly.
or whether
And you can
you're
use those skills too to help you.
absolutely. And I do.
Yeah.
I mean, I homeschooled my daughter until she was ready for kindergarten. And so when
Hmm.
she got to kindergarten, she was already reading on a second grade level. So
Wow. That's amazing.
yeah. So I mean, um, if that doesn't solidify a purpose, I don't know what does. But um, I would definitely say that therapy helped me to see that, you know, you're in purpose.
I love
If you're
that.
finding joy, and you know, you're in purpose.
Hmm. I love that. You talk a lot about, advocating for even womanhood, talking about womanhood, specifically motherhood, but you also talk about just finding that confidence in yourself as a woman. What
Mhm.
would you say was the thing that really shaped your identity in your womanhood? Or maybe it was a couple things.
Yeah. When I had our second child, our last child, um, I was already on this journey. I was already evolving, and I had come to this realization that I really needed to start making time for me, because at this point, my daughter's older. She was 5 at the time when our son was born. And, she was pretty independent. Um, she needed me for, a few things, but
Mhm.
for the most part, she could do things for herself. And when I had our last child, it hit me that that same thing was going to happen. And I needed to
Mm.
figure out what I would what was I interested in? What did I want to do? So much of motherhood causes you to, be in service to other people that sometimes you do forget about yourself.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of had this epiphany that I wanted to do things for me, and I owed myself that. And
Yes.
so I started to really focus on the things that wanted, all the things that I liked. some of which had changed dramatically because I was just like, I really don't want to pursue this anymore because
Mm-hmm.
that's not beneficial for my family. That's not, and it's really not beneficial for me either. So
Right.
there were things that I discovered had changed about me, um but there were also things that I still wanted to accomplish. And I think that realization caused me to, and I talk about this on the blog, it caused me to fiercely fight to evolve and become
Yeah.
the person that I've always been, and not, live under this, expectation of other people, but really, what do I want?
Yeah.
Really get curious about what it is that I want. Yeah.
How do you balance that? Because I know that a lot of moms, like you said, they're when kids come, they are the priority. So you do have to think about their needs, especially when they're small. But then yeah, they grow up. How are you able to kind of like maintain that confidence in yourself and balance the meeting their needs and also meeting your needs and also meeting the needs of your husband because you guys have that relationship? How do you like balance all of that?
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing, the first understanding that I had to come to was that there really is no real balance.
Mm,
There's an ebb and flow. Um, there's more of an ebb and flow, and so there will be times where you focus more on you, and there'll
mm-hmm,
be times you focus more on the children, and there'll be times where you focus more on your relationship with your spouse, and so having that understanding kind of gave me the freedom to really think about how I evolve as a woman outside of motherhood,
yeah.
and actually focus on that because there's only so much time, there's only so many hours in a day, and so to say that a certain portion of that time is going to be devoted to this and devoted to that is really um I really don't think that's a good way to approach it,
Mm,
just because so much of life is, you know, it's just unexpected. It's just kind of
yeah.
you have to kind of go with what you're given, and so I try to approach it that way. Life is ebb and flow, and today I might be focusing more on me, and tomorrow I might be focusing more on my family.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all okay because at the end of the day, if I'm good, guess what? They're going to be good too.
Yes. Yes. What I love about this podcast is that I'm able to talk to people who are so different from me. And I mean, I'm not a parent. I probably won't be a parent. I mean, anytime soon. That's what we know for sure. And yet we have so many similarities because I actually just talked about something very similar in a few podcast episodes ago, just about the ebb and flow of life and being able to go with the flow. And that's something I'm hearing a lot from you of just once you are able to accept that this is just the way life is and that it's okay and kind of just go with it as it goes, you sound like you're able to have a lot more peace and joy in life and just be overall more content. I just love that.
Yeah. Because I mean, really, what you're doing when you try to kind of rail against what life is, you find yourself trying to kind of swim upstream, and it's such
Right.
a hard that's just such a hard thing to do when you can just kind of relax and kind of just free fall, just kind of
Yeah.
I don't know if you follow Lovey. Uh,
Oh no, I don't follow her now.
well, um, she's a blogger, and well, she started out blogging, but she's written a I think 2 books now. But
Mhm.
anyway, she talked about how she was going to therapy, and she was talking to her therapist about um life and in general. And one of the things that her therapist said to her is when she described life as, kind of, she's not sinking or swimming, and she's, she's either sinking or swimming, something like that. But her
Mm-hmm.
therapist said to her, "Why don't you just float?"
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about that? Why don't you just float? And I kind of feel like I've embraced that a little bit. Like,
I love it.
why can't I just float right now?
Yeah. I
Instead of
just
seeing
said
life as
this.
an either or, either I sink or swim, instead of seeing it that way, why don't I just float?
Yeah. I actually said, I said in like a few episodes ago, I feel like I'm a log in the water, but I was seeing it as kind of like a bad thing. Like I feel like I'm just going wherever the tide is taking me because I don't even know what's going on. But as I started thinking about it later, I'm like, I don't know if being a log and floating with the river is actually a bad thing.
Right.
And hearing you talk, I know it's not a bad thing because obviously it's been working for you. I
Yeah.
love that. And I think, honestly, I feel like if we all kind of took on that mentality, we'd be a lot more relaxed,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a struggle. It's a day-to-day struggle because
Yeah,
everything is
yeah,
not
it is. I mean, what is something that you would say to moms who do lose themselves in their kids and who, after their kids are grown, don't know what to do anymore? Like, what is your advice for moms who are struggling with their identities through being a mother?
Yeah. I think the first thing I would tell all moms is losing yourself in motherhood is part of the process. If you didn't lose yourself, you wouldn't find the person that you're supposed to find.
Mm,
Because losing yourself kind of shakes you. Like, wait a minute, like, is this what I'm doing with the rest of my life? Of course not, because at some point in time, this child is going to be grown.
mm-hmm.
And I have to, and I don't want to wait until my child is grown to figure out what it is that I like about me
I
and
love that.
what I want to do with the rest of my life. And so I would say to any mom, go with the process, let the process happen, don't fight it. I do see a lot of, moms, fighting that process.
Yeah.
But I think when you just go along with it, you end up finding someone so much better, so much more, stable, and firm in the things that you believe,
Mm-hmm.
because you've kind of been through the fire, and you're just like, that ain't working for me anymore, like, and I don't necessarily, I don't necessarily know what I would say to moms who have, reached the stage where their children are grown and
Mm-hmm.
still haven't found um found them, found what they like and what they love about them. That's a tough one.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of sounds, I think the advice that you gave earlier is very relevant to all moms. Even, I think it could work in the same sense because I feel like you are, when you find what you love, when you're able to find something outside of your kids, then you're able to find the purpose when they no longer need you as much as they did when they were small. So I think it's all the same. I think it's great.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
can see that.
I love that. Thank you so much, Deandra, for joining me. I love everything that you're saying. Not yet, but I'm going to give you a chance to plug all of your things. But before we do that, I like to end the podcast talking about something that God has taught me. And so I'm going to ask you, what is something that you've learned that God is teaching you maybe recently that you feel good sharing?
um One thing that God has taught me is that he can handle all of our big feelings,
Mm,
just like um a good parent can handle, a meltdown from your toddler or your teenager. He can handle it. He can handle all our big
Yeah.
feelings, all our big questions. He's not afraid of it. He knew it was coming. And who better to run to than someone who can handle all of that? And so that's
Yes.
something that God has taught me.
I love that. Something that God has taught me is kind of similar. It's that God doesn't need our help.
Okay.
Sometimes sometimes I feel like, okay, Lord, let me just help you out a little bit by doing this, let me speed up the process. And then I get myself into trouble because then what I'm saying to God is, I don't fully trust you to work this out. So let me just do my little thing
Right.
here. And God is just showing me he don't need me.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
He doesn't need my help. He got this. And
Right.
all I need to do is just chill. Okay. And sometimes chilling, sometimes waiting is hard,
Yeah.
but God is just showing me over and over again, I got it. I got it. Release the burdens, relax. I got this. And it's been life changing in a time when, again, so many things are happening. Just knowing that he can take care of it has me at a lot of peace. So I'm very, very grateful for that.
Yeah.
Thank you once again, Deandra, for joining us. Now I'm going to give you the chance to plug yourself, tell everybody where we can find you, all the things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm on Instagram and you can find me at D_the Snarky Mom. And my blog is the Snarky Mom blog.wordpress.com. But if you can't remember that, you can find everything at the link in my bio on my Instagram.
Awesome. And I will put all the links in the description below in the podcast links. So don't worry, y'all. We can all go and find D the Snarky Mom on the links. Okay. Once again, thank you so much. It was so
Thank
awesome talking
you.
to you. And until next time, you guys, bye.